Would you introduce me to Mr. Zubov and Mr. Netherton, please? It's Inspector Ainsley Lowbeer of the Metropolitan Police.
Hello, welcome back to another episode. Watch out, spoilers ahead. Inspector Lowbeer adds a new twist to the Peripheral's future timeline, but how she fits into the story and whether she represents another evil arrival is unclear. From Flynne Fisher in 2032 to Cherries in future London, the most important players are already neck-deep in conspiracy and cooperation as the Peripheral Episode 6, colorfully titled, begins. Inspector Ainsley Lowbeer, played by Alexandra Billings, crashes the Peripheral's party with a sweetly authoritative air. She is a big new addition. Inspector Lowbeer's appearance signifies a seismic shift in the power balance of the Peripheral. Season 1, although the direction of that movement is unknown. As much as Lowbeer loves to shoot straight, the Inspector is also a master at keeping her cards close to her chest, and while the Peripheral Episode 6 revolves solely around her, viewers are left wondering about the newcomer's exact objectives. Inspector Lowbeer's visit to Lev Zubov's door is clearly not to be taken lightly, and her inquiries are unlikely to finish with a shakedown and a slap on the wrist. Who is Inspector Lowbeer in the Peripherals? Tina Miller's Cherries discuss the three foundations of Earth's future society via breakfast items in the Peripheral Episode 4. Her own research institute served as one pillar, while Lev Zubov's criminal klept mafia served as the other. Cherries' third and final slice of toast symbolizes the Met, effectively the Peripheral's future state police, inspired by the real-world Metropolitan Police Service that operates in London. So far, the Peripheral has rarely mentioned the Met, with only a few passing references and a random street stop by a robotic police officer in Episode 3. Inspector Lowbeer represents the Met's upper, human echelons, yet the Peripheral makes clear that she is not the highest-ranking cop in future London, hinting at the appearance of a bigger fish, maybe the Commissioner, later down the road. Lowbeer's body is clearly indicated to have haptic AI implants that make her a walking lie detector, instantaneously detecting untruths while embracing traditional British idiosyncrasies and styling her outfit after Sherlock Holmes. Even though Lowbeer's current goal in the Peripheral is just to find out who killed Daniel, her questioning of Lev Zubov shows that she wants to find out about the klept organization as a whole, not just one murder. Why Inspector Lowbeer is a major issue for Zubov. The Peripheral goes to considerable lengths to portray Alexandra Billings' Inspector Lowbeer as a big menace. Lev Zubov, who is always unflappable, responds with dread when he learns that Lowbeer is waiting in his lobby. When Cherries paid an unexpected visit to Zubov in the Peripheral, Episode 4, he was less agitated, which tells much about the gravity of Lowbeer's presence. Wilf Netherton is noticeably shaken, but not as much as the tea tray brought by a frightened Austrian. These terrified emotions demonstrate that Inspector Lowbeer, whether friend or foe, outranks Zubov in the Peripheral's social food chain, ranking closer to Cherries overall. In the Peripheral Episode 3, Flynne Fisher's chance encounter with a Met coid on the streets of London alarmed Zubov's lackeys. If the Met finds out Flynne is from the stub, you're on your own, Katie Lungsash said. This creates the intriguing possibility of Flynne's fate if Inspector Lowbeer realizes she, Burton, and Connor are from the year 2032. Flynne was initially sent into the future under the guise of a VR simulator, but she returned on her own several times after that. Ash said in Episode 3 of The Peripheral that Lowbeer would be annoyed by Flynne's presence, which could make the Inspector an enemy. Ainsley Lowbeer becomes a new The Peripheral villain when she threatens Wilf Netherton with execution on allegations of abetting murder. Aside from the injustice of Wilf being executed just for being present when Daniel died, Lowbeer says that the period between arrest and execution will be around 7 minutes, hardly enough time for Wilf's counsel to arrive, let alone build a strong defense. Lowbeer didn't make these sad laws, but she seems happy to enforce them, which makes her a part of the Peripheral's ugly future. Lowbeer can become a Peripheral ally, not a villain. While Inspector Lowbeer's ability to lead a room full of criminals suggests she is a villain in the Peripheral, other indications point to her assisting Flynne Fisher's cause. Despite her ruthlessness, Lowbeer is clearly committed to upholding the law. Cherries detailed how the Met keeps the klept in line in the Peripheral Episode 4, but that power triangle must undoubtedly entail that the Met also keeps an eye on the Research Institute. Lowbeer talks about pulling a thread in her first book, The Peripheral. If the Inspector pulled the Flynne Fisher thread, the RIS horrible use of parallel realities would be revealed. Flynne and Lowbeer only meet for a few seconds in The Peripheral, Episode 6, but they already have a bond. Lowbeer's formidable remark reveals a respect for the young woman in front of her, while Flynne, who has previously been wary of newcomers, respectfully addresses Lowbeer as ma'am and shakes her hand, presumably hinting at the beginnings of a team-up to save Flynne and her own history from Cherries. Whatever happens to Inspector Lowbeer in the Peripheral, no one who drinks their tea with a dash of milk and no sugar can be considered a villain. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.